Okay, so in the last video we looked at the paintbrush, and we looked at adding some different textures to the terrain. What we're going to look at in this video is we're going to look at creating hills and valleys, and we're going to look at the smoothing ground out and making it hilly or spiky. And if you remember in the last video, we looked at, so if we select the blocks, we had a square block, or we had a, if you push it down now, we've got the smooth block. So what we're going to do is I'm going to add some extra terrain using the square blocks. So I'm just going to zoom out a little bit so I've got some space to work with, and there we go. This doesn't have to be neat, this is just an example. And if I go back into there and I push the down arrow, this is going to give me some smooth terrain. Let's enter to select it. And on this side we've got the sort of the angled, the beveled side. So what we're going to do is when we start to look at the raising the ground and making it smooth and leveling it and looking at these three buttons, we're going to notice a difference in how the world, the environment looks. So to start with, what we're going to do is we're going to create some hills. So we select the create hills button, you'll notice a little up down arrow. So if we left click, just quickly, sorry, before we get onto this, you'll notice the little blue things there. These are the same as we had in the paintbrush. So we've got a square, we've got a circle, we've got a medium round brush, and we've got a soft round brush. The hard brushes will give you very defined sort of edges. These softer brushes will give you a softer looking feel. So if we click on the round one, so if I click on this, so left click brings that up. So I'm just going to hold down that just so we can move around. There we go. Select this one, and if I select the softer brush, you'll notice that the angles, so spacebar to move around, you notice the angles are a lot smoother. So up here, you know, these are more pronounced, this comes up very quickly, this comes up a lot more gently. So that's what we're doing with the brush, the roundness and the smoothness, so the hardness and the smoothness rather. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, and this will flatten out. So you've got left click to raise, right click to flatten. And I'm just going to choose the square brush because you'll be able to see this a lot better with the square brush. So I'm going to, in the middle, I'm just going to do a straight column coming up. Okay, so this is on the square. Remember we had the two sides. We've got the square blocks down here, and we've got the rounded blocks across on this side. So I'm going to space bar, move around so we can see this side. I'm going to use this. This is the same brush, the same square pattern, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the left mouse button just to raise up on this side. So now as we zoom in a little bit, and I'm just going to go to the hand tool so I can move around the navigation. So you notice I've got a little bit of a square there, but for the most part, on the right hand side where we had the rounded blocks, we have a nice smooth contour, a nice smooth surface. This looks more like an actual real life hill, whereas this looks more like a building. This looks like a little bit like one of the Incan pyramids that you might see. So you've got blocks with steps running up. So if we want a nice smooth lifelike terrain, we'd use the rounded blocks when we're painting, so that when we come into here, we've got the options here. So these smooth blocks will give us this effect. If you push the up arrow, these square blocks will give us this effect. So it all comes down to what you want when you're creating your world, when you're creating things. So that creates your hills. Now if we right click, we can reduce the size of those, but we don't want to do that just yet. So we're going to go on to the next one. So this makes ground smooth or level. So if I just right click over this bit here, you'll notice how this makes it a little bit smaller, and it just makes everything a little bit smoother. If I do it on the right hand block, it just shrinks things down a little bit. So it's the same as sort of pushing the right mouse button, but it does it very, very gradually. Now if I push the right, I'm going to right click this one, so this is making it level. You'll notice that it's not just reducing it, but it's also bringing it up. So it sort of it's going to meet, if I kept this here, this would sort of meet halfway. And it creates this nice level area. Doing the same here, so I'll do it on this corner. It sort of starts to level things out a little bit. It softens things down. Now what I'm going to do is, you've got the scroll wheel, so if I'm just going to space bar so I can navigate round, and you can actually click the scroll wheel like it's an extra button, and this is what we're doing up here with this smooth terrain. So if I click the middle mouse button, it sort of makes everything just a little bit smoother. So I can click on the top there, and it makes things a little bit smoother. So I'm going to space bar so I can move around. This is me with the right mouse click, and then I'm going to left arrow key to make the brush a little bit smaller, and we can space bar around so we can see that it smooths things out a little bit more. So if I wanted to get rid of this, right mouse click it, there we go, space bar, and I can move around, and we now have what looks like a mountain range, or an actual hill that's in there, as opposed to something that's quite blocky. The other button that we've got across the bottom is to create spiky or hilly ground. Well, if I'm going to create this one, and we've got the shapes button again there, I'm still going to stick with the square, so we're going to select hilly ground. So over here, left click is spiky, and what this does is it raises the ground, but in an uneven way. So when we had sort of raising the ground, everything sort of raises from one point, and it all sort of sits kind of level. Well, this raises it quite uneven. So space bar, going to left click to move into this area, and what we're going to do is same again, left click, and this gives us like some jagged mountain range. So right space bar, I'm going to right click to move around it so we can see it, and you'll see how that creates a nice jagged sort of area. If I right click, it creates hills, and I can smooth the terrain by the middle mouse button, which makes it a little bit smaller, and if I space bar, right click to move around, you can see that that's the effect there. If I do the right mouse click on here, once again this is a lot smoother, it's not jagged like that. And if I want to smooth things, like middle mouse button on the scroll wheel, and it just reduces things down. Like with the other elements, this is something you need to have a play with, and you need to sort of get used to and start just messing around with. One thing I would consider when you're developing and building your environments is you choose something, for example, like choosing a texture which is very sort of rocky or very earthy, like something like that, 17, and you can start painting. So you can start painting areas like this. Okay, and let's move over here, and then we can raise this up. And this will be, and if we space bar, right mouse click, we've created a sort of mountain range that's made out of mountain, like looks more like rock as opposed to grass. So if you wanted like hills to navigate around on rock, we've got some sort of division there. The next lesson, what we're going to do is we're going to look at water. I'm going to keep this terrain for you to see, and we're going to add water to this terrain, water to this map, so you'll be able to see how we do things there. So I'll catch you in the next video.